welcome back to another art video. I am Anwar. I do art here on YouTube every day at 11 a.m. EST. And today, we brought the sketchbook out, the little cute sheep sketchbook, because it's not been getting proper use, because it's inside of my body bag, and that leads it to not get brought out if I come out with this bag. So we're gonna just, draw something in it so that these pages get used, because I also want to get rid of this paper. I really hate this paper desperately and vehemently. I hate this paper right here. It's really annoying. And as you can see, I tried to make my own paper for it, which went alright, but it's supposed to be a journal or something. I didn't have no reviews before I bought it, and yeah, so we will just be kinda noodling around on this page. And I was thinking yesterday, after I was done editing some videos, I was thinking how I was thinking about the Animorphs mostly, and why that series is so insane, because I've never really read the books. When I was young, the covers used to freak me out, so I never really read the books. But it's really funny how the Animorphs were these weird covers, but the stories is child soldiers. The Animorphs were literally My Hero Academia or Naruto, where it's yeah, they're literally training these kids for war. But Animorphs is a little bit different, because I feel they weren't really training them for war. I feel they just kind of happened that way, and they had to learn stuff along the way. But I think the books probably are pretty good, because the show, while the people didn't like the show, I think the show was interesting for the most part. Obviously it was watered down, in the books they're very dark and insane. I'm surprised nobody's picked up Animorph and tried to really adapt it. I mean, you got Supernatural exists, right? Animorphs and Supernatural are essentially the same thing. They could easily bump those two out together, or I don't know, any network, any thing would be happy to pick up Animorphs and do a better job than the original series did. But I will say that they did try, in my opinion. They gave it a good 1-2 punch. They attempted to make something salvageable for children, because I think that if they showed the actual context, it would be expecting a child to understand what's happening in Gundam, which leads me to another point, is after I finished watching the episodes of Monsters, there was a compilation of an X-Play marathon from 2005, and I was curious. I was curious. I will admit that I was a curious little bean, and I turned it on to witness my youth nostalgia, to witness when we finally got that cable with the card inside the cable box. The cable box with the card in it. And the first episode was relevant to today, because it was a robot, Adam 5 or whatever, and one of the guys lost their job because the robot was replacing him, and the other guy hated the robot because he doesn't trust robots. I didn't really watch too much of the episode because once it got to the point where they started talking about like the Gundam and the way that they were like reviewing it, is like, like it could be funny if you were just like a straight up idiot, right? Like if you're a straight up moron or like a young infant child, sure, it might be a funny show, but it was just not funny. Like the way that they were talking about it, the way that they like um just had infinite like bad faith. It was just like, you know, they garnered a lot of respect, I want to say, from like people that didn't know nothing about, like people that didn't know stuff about games and people that didn't really know much about games, in my opinion. And the main reason why is because they were legitimized by being on television. And I think that back then in those olden times, you have this nature in which you are legitimized by being in this like uh, prescient space where you're just like, existing in this like disgusting kind of manner because nobody cares about nothing because they only care about like the legitimacy of television. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you could have been on TV saying like anything, and it's like, well, you're legit because you're on TV, and TV is legit. And now, obviously, those that has kind of like changed in the more like modern age, which is kind of one of the reasons why G4 TV is kind of like, you know, a relic of the past because the legitimacy of what you need to be considered a video game journalist is also different. Um, and most people would acknowledge that, but the sincerity and like obviously the people that were reading the reviews on XPlay, if I'm not mistaken, did not write the reviews. But the problem was is that like it was just written like crap, right? Like the whole Gundam segment. Like I'm not a big Gundam fan. I don't watch Gundam. I've only owned one real Gundam my entire life, which was like the gold shining dragon Gundam or something like that. And the rest of them were like this hard plastic, like cheap 99-cent store knockoff. And I don't even have a favorite Gundam series because I never really understood what was happening in the show. Like I watched Gundam Seed because I thought the parts with the suit was like really interesting, but that's about it. And only because my friends were watching it, I didn't know what the hell was going on. But within all of that like information, with all of that like logic and knowledge, I think that the way that they reviewed that game was just mis they mismanaged their appropriate powers. And I felt like a lot of these like game reviewers back then did that. Like that one dude who made the sound for the pain noise that they use in Roblox. Like a lot of these people had legitimacy in an industry that was like niche, and then also like, you know, uh, allying with the powers that be to create these these programs, and these programs ended up becoming, you know, strong portions of how people like interact with strong portion of how people interact with how things are, as far as like things go regarding like gaming and stuff like that. Like if you think about like how people again give legitimacy or credence to the level of like, oh, you're on television, so you are legit, source of news and information. And I think that a lot of that was just mishandled, especially if you see the way that they like review certain games. It's like they have like their own like gripe with a lot of this stuff, and they want to like throw things under the bus if, I don't know, maybe you didn't pay them or whatever it was. Like it was just really disingenuous, and it made it hard to watch. Like I turned it off probably after like the first couple of minutes, and the storyline of like the idea of like what was happening with like, you know, things of the nature of like, oh, their the little skit with the robot and all that stuff was interesting, but outside of that, it was pretty bad. Like the robot skit was interesting because like that's the reality that we're facing right now, kinda. And I guess they were like making a joke unintentionally that became reality, but um the actual like reviews themselves don't like warrant any merit. And I thought I could like have it on like as like supplemental noise while I'm drawing or whatever the case may be. Like, oh, it's in the background, so it's not really like relevant to anything. And the issue was like, no, you can't even have it on the background because it's like it's kind of bad. Like it's kind of like awful. Like they're like, oh, it's awful, and it's like almost like very like how else would I describe it? Like very like mean spirited is the other term that I could use, I guess. Like it's mean spirited. It has no like actual like entertainment merit because it's not trying to be entertaining. It just feels like uh vicious attacks disguised as reviews through the legitimacy of television media. And it's like, bro, could y'all like, I don't know, clean this up? And like obviously, like it's something that a lot of like dorks enjoy because they like that crap. Like they like that like it's garbage, so I want to watch it. Not if it is garbage, it's like, oh, he's hating on it, so he's being real. And it's like, actually no, he's not being real, or they're not being real. They're just being like mean spirited for no reason. Like it was like, oh, it's Gundam, 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 Gundam. It's like, bro, like one, that's not funny. But I guess that would be like the same crowd. Like, and I'm gonna offend some people here with this one. It's the same crowd that like thinks like that Ghost Stories is funny. Like I would make a bet that is the same crowd that thinks Ghost Stories is funny. I find Ghost Stories to be very unfunny, completely unenjoyable, and just trash. And that's just me. There's a lot of like lunatics out there who, again, because of the medium that it is, thinks that it's like, oh my god, it's so funny. It's such a funny because it's part of this medium that is legitimate, and I think that that's funny. It's like, no, it's not funny, and it's trash, and it's garbage, and I don't like it. Like I find it to be trash. I find it to be garbage, and I personally don't enjoy it at all. And if you like it, I guess that's your prerogative, but I don't like it. I find it to be pretty awful, and most people would probably disagree with me because they want to, again, be part of that weird, dumb group that likes to just like, oh my god, they're doing jokes on a legitimate medium, so I think that that's cute. I think that that's funny. It's like, yeah, it's really not funny. Like I can't remember like, and I watched the whole Ghost Stories, and I can't remember like once time where I thought like, oh, this is like a funny joke. And watching like G4, there wasn't really too many times where like G4 was really all that like funny. It just felt like a place where it was like a legitimate place to get information about video games, because it was that, and I guess I felt like for me like IGN. Otherwise, I didn't really go to the internet because I didn't have the internet at the time to like go and like find things. And even on the internet, they were still like from my understanding, reviewing things in that manner as well. And definitely you have IGN that did that. And I said IGN, I meant like Game Informer for like the other place to get information. But like Game Informer was like this like publication that I thought was like this like great publication. I was like, oh man, Game Informer is great. I love Game Informer, and it's wasn't really all that great. Like I did like the pictures and the ads and stuff like that, but like the actual writing, I think I owned like one Game Informer magazine that I don't know where it is, but I really wore that one out. It was the one with Mega Man Battle Network in it and Vex. And I remember looking at the Mega Man Battle Network photos all the time, like, yo, I want that game. And also wanting Vex, never getting Vex, but I did get Mega Man. But it's just like, I don't know. I feel like they just like abused their position, and you know, you could argue and be like, well, it worked, and it's like, yes, because they didn't have nothing. There was no other game in town, so like, what is the metric of it worked? Because there was no other game in town. They had no competition. They had none. Like there was no competition, so there was no like, oh, it worked, because it didn't. It didn't work. They just had no competition. When you have no competition, if let's say there's a cake factory that makes cakes, but they're all made out of cement, and people keep buying these cakes, and there are no other factories. Like people can make cakes, but nobody else makes them for sale, and you can't get them easily. What ends up happening? The cement cake factory will stay in business because people keep buying these cement cakes, and that's what they did. They kept making cement cakes, and people kept buying them because there was no other game in town. Like what other channel was there? You know, like didn't G4 used to be like Tech TV or whatever, and then you have, you know, Tech TV changes into G4 because I guess they thought that like, you know, this was the next wave, and it was, but in that space, you know, it kept pushing them. They kept pushing it closer and closer to not be about games, and the not be about games part I did enjoy. Not gonna lie to you, because I feel like they were at their best when they were strictly about like, you know, I guess video game vixens or whatever you want to call it. I think that was when you know, things really hit themselves at the full extent, and then obviously, you know, you had the more widespread use of the internet, and they kind of got cooked because now, you know, yeah, you still have the legitimacy of television, but people who really cares? Like YouTube is going up, right? And they got a lot. They got a lot to compete with now. They got a lot to compete with. You got YouTube going up. You got people on internet forums giving their 1-2 punch. It's just like a lot of stuff was happening, and then one day you just stop watching. You know, you're no longer interested in watching G4. No longer interested in watching X Play, and I think a lot of X Play reviews were just, in my opinion, just not very honest and highly mean-spirited. But there still was a market for that, honestly, because there are YouTube channels that literally to this day exist off of that. You know, there are media entities out there that exist off of the strength of just saying this game sucks, or this game is Dark Souls or whatever. Like, so, but it's cheaper than producing a whole store. It's cheaper than renting out a studio, which, you know, those days are, I guess, done, in my opinion, unless you want to do it like for yourself, like with your own production on YouTube or something. But outside of that, those days are done, right? Days are kind of cooked. Those days are over, and I don't know. I just thought that I would say that about it because I tried to watch it. I really did. I tried to give it a chance, but it's just unbearable the way that they constantly kept saying Gundam. It really bugged me. It's like theoretically, like who's that even written for? Like, let's say, like, all right, you guys are writing your stories for children, all right, like, you could literally say anything, and then you're not writing it for children, you're writing it for the you know, more mature gamer who you think would have been watching the show, because you guys are mature, or you guys are gamers. Like, who was it being written for is the confusing part. And then the other part is like, nobody cared to actually try to like make something cohesive for the people watching it. It was just like straight up and down, just um, say thing about thing that I don't like and make other people not like it too. And I'm sure there's people out there who still like probably like parrot their talking points, like, oh yeah, Gundam, like, because even now with certain things, like, people don't learn how to have objective discernment for things. They just find the person who is the most popular, and if they say something negative, then they just run with that. They're like, oh my god, such and such said this, you know the emperor of all gaming said that games suck, so this game sucks because such and such said it, and they have 8.3 billion followers, so it's true and you can't argue with that. Ha 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 ha. I was like, why you like this? Why are you guys this way? Why do you behave in this manner? But the reason why is just because that's just the way that it is. Nobody really wants to truly form their own thoughts, because that requires effort, thought, and time. And anytime we have to do that, anytime you have to set aside brain power to think, you are taken away from not thinking. And that is always fun. But if you enjoy the rambling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a little bit different than what we usually do, but I had to draw in my sketchbook, and we're still not done actually. I did want to like do some light shadows on this stuff here, so it's gonna be a relatively long video where we go in depth about nonsense. But I always thought that that was really annoying, and I know a lot of people, again, probably just don't care, or care but don't care enough. And I don't know, I'm always like witnessing things, and some of it is annoying, and I've been learning more so often to not engage with a lot of stuff. Like, one of my big things is that I love summer. I do not like winter or anything like that. And there's always like people like complaining about summer, or complaining about how hot it is, or whatever the case may be. I used to go out of my way to battle with them, to have back and forth confrontation, but I've learned that it is meaningless, because I don't care. While I do enjoy summer, I do love summer, I do not care what winter likers think, because it's just irrelevant. Like, right now they complain about how hot it is. When it gets cold, they're gonna be complaining about how cold it is. So it's just like, there's nothing. I don't care. Like, they have no backbone even for their own season. So I'm glad that they don't like some. I'm glad that they don't like my season. Seasons are team sports now, and I'm glad that they don't like the season that I like, because they don't care about anything. They don't care about winter, even though they act like they like it, and they don't care about anything. So I have no firm belief in any thoughts, and I don't mind just ignoring them now, which is what I do, because I love summer, even when it's like insanely hot. And to be clear, I don't advocate for the insanely hot, because that's not summer. Summer is just usually just nice weather. It's not always just like 300 degrees, but I just like the good weather, not that dog water winter weather. But again, I don't debate it anymore. I used to have deep philosophical debates about what is better, but I just don't care anymore. Like, somebody says something like bad about summer now, I just walk it off. Cause like who really cares, bro? Like these people really complain in the wintertime too. You know, like, and it also is like, you know, you could tell who's like never actually had to like work in the winter or do anything in the actual cold, because they like advocate for inclement weather, which makes things worse. And does extreme heat make work worse? In a way, it can. I wouldn't deny you that. But, you know, when it's really cold outside, they don't really, there's no warnings really issued. Like, you know, like one time I was, coming home late at night from work, and it was like, the winter time, it was like January or something, and it was so cold that you couldn't even breathe. And I literally went, 45 minutes. I was like, it's probably like 20 minutes from my house. I went 45 minutes to a friend's house because it was so cold and I couldn't breathe, and I had to get on the train and take it in a complete opposite direction, because if I would have walked home, I would have most likely suffocated. You know, but that could happen in the summer, I guess, if it's hot enough. But it's just, you know, very different experience. You know, prefer the summer, and I just learned not to even debate anymore about it, because again, even the winter likers don't really like winter. They'll complain about it all the time, and it's just like, bro, kick rocks. But that's just my thoughts on that situation. And yeah, so we're done here. So if you enjoy the video, if you enjoy me rambling, if you enjoy me going on about nonsense, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the one page that we've done, and the other page is this page. So we've done these two pages, and I will see you again soon in the next video. Have a nice day. Goodbye.